For years, fans of the legendary rock band Styx have wondered what really went down between Tommy Shaw and Dennis DeYoung. Why did their creative partnership, once responsible for some of the most iconic rock anthems of the 70s and 80s, collapse into silence and separation? Now, at 71, Tommy Shaw is finally pulling back the curtain and exposing the truth behind their long-running feud. And it's more revealing than anyone expected. When Styx hit it big in the 1970s, they weren't just another rock band. They were musical pioneers. With hits like Come Sail Away, Renegade, Babe, and Mr. Roboto, Styx blended progressive rock with theatrical flair. At the center of it all stood two men: Dennis DeYoung, the flamboyant keyboardist and frontman with a Broadway soul, and Tommy Shaw, the hard-rocking guitarist with a rebel edge. On stage, they were magic. But behind the scenes, things were much messier. For decades, rumors swirled about creative differences, personal tensions, and power struggles. But now, Tommy Shaw is telling his side. And it's not just about music. It's about pride, betrayal, and two very different visions of what Styx should have been. In a recent interview, Shaw reflected on those difficult years, revealing, "Dennis was always incredibly talented. There's no denying that. But after a while, it felt like the band became a vehicle for his vision, not ours. We were all part of Styx, but sometimes it felt like we were just background players in the Dennis DeYoung show." It all came to a head in the early 1980s, during the Kilroy Was Here era. While DeYoung wanted to steer Styx toward rock opera and theatrical concepts, Shaw and others in the band wanted to keep their sound grounded in hard rock. The result was a creative tug-of-war and eventually, an explosion. The whole Mr. Roboto thing. It was the tipping point, Shaw admitted. It just wasn't who we were anymore. It felt like we were losing our identity. The tension became unbearable. Shaw left the band in 1984, and though there were reunions later, the original chemistry never fully returned. DeYoung was officially out of the band by the late 90s, and Styx continued on without him. But Shaw says it wasn't about ego or hatred. It was about survival. "We had to make a choice, either evolve without Dennis, or watch everything we built fall apart." Still, he doesn't paint DeYoung as a villain. In fact, he gives credit where it's due. "Dennis wrote some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I'll never take that away from him. But being in a band is like being in a marriage. And sometimes it just stops working." Fans have long hoped for a full Styx reunion, but Shaw is clear, it's not going to happen. Not because of bitterness, but because of the path they've chosen. "We've found a rhythm that works now. We're making music we believe in. That doesn't mean there's bad blood, just different directions." DeYoung, for his part, has also spoken out over the years, often expressing disappointment and confusion about being excluded. He's called for a reunion, even just one last time. But Shaw remains firm, even as he acknowledges the past with a touch of nostalgia. "There's a chapter that ended. That's all. It's not a war. It's a story. And every story has a turning point." Today, at 71, Tommy Shaw is still touring with Styx, still rocking sold-out crowds, and still doing what he loves. He's older, wiser, and no longer afraid to speak the truth. "We gave the world something special," he says. "And no matter how it ended, no one can take that away." In the end, maybe that's the real story, not of betrayal but of evolution. Not of enemies, but of artists who once created magic, then went their separate ways. And as for fans still dreaming of a reunion, Tommy simply says, "We've all moved on, and that's okay."